Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody to the Leap of Faith podcast, episode number 8. Today we're going to be talking about transhumanism and how we're merging into, or I should say, transitioning into what they call humanity 2.0. And what that involves is we have, at one time, we had the technological or industrial revolution, which started to make machines, machinery, and that led to computers and quantum physics and all that kind of stuff. And the computer, and then the computers led to the internet, and then the internet led to the Internet of Things, which was a term coined, I think, first in 1999 by a guy in MIT that was talking about how. And that was when the internet was just about 10 years old at that time. But when you had things like cell phones and other kind of like electronic devices like CD, well, I think they just started having MP3 players at that time, and everything would be connected to the internet. Everything could be just connected, and then that has transformed into smartphones, and then we have Fitbits and all these kind of wearable devices to where more and more mankind, like man, is merging with machine. And this is just in the early stages of it, where we're kind of more advanced now than what we were, but it's rapidly going that way. And we're really entering into the fourth industrial revolution, as they say, as Klaus Schwab wrote. I think he even wrote a book about it. So this transhumanism is about where man and machine are combining into one, and it's basically combining the organic life with the digital or the technological or the synthetic life forms. So what's going to happen, and what we see happening even today, when you see how your all of our smart devices are all connected, and I talked about Fitbits before, is that where that's actually monitoring not just our it doesn't just monitor, like what internet or cell phones tracks, like our our activity online, where what websites we browse, what we search for. But then these Fitbits, these wearables, are actually detecting. That's just going by our psychological profile with our searches or everything. But the Fitbit is actually monitoring our biology to where it can tell us, it can monitor our breathing, it can monitor, um, even knows when we're sleeping and
Also with
stuff.
that, also with that, it monitors your biological, but when you interact with other things, other Internet of Things connected devices, it knows exactly what you're feeling during that time when you interact with it, and eventually, you know what I mean. So it'll be able to suggest things to you that, let's say they wanted to incite fear into you, they could do that through suggesting something that they know will make you feel a specific way during a specific time. You know what I mean? So that's another thing on that.
Right. Well, and that's just it. They're basically hacking into us. They're It's like a biohack. It's like a brain hack, or like a, I guess the best way you could say it would be like a biohack, to where, or like even like a spiritual hack, to like get into our very to know everything about us, not just our mentality, our psychology, but like you said, our physiology, to where it can even track our fears. And all this is building a profile on us, and we become products, and we become basically property of. They own us, in other words, because they've literally hacked into us, and they know all of our secrets, and that's just what's happening now. There's no more privacy anymore. I feel for the kids being born into this society, because they don't know, they're never going to know anything about privacy like we did when we were growing up, and we still had it before the internet came to be and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, so it's going to be pretty kind of rough for these kids. But at the same time, if they don't know anything other than that, they're being born and they just think this is normal. So this is definitely a new era that we're entering into. That's why I call this humanity 2.0, because the old ways, the old traditional values, well, whatever, that's another topic. But the old way of life, to where um people had more, they could, I guess you can say, hide, but like they had privacy. That's kind of going the way of the dodo now. And like you were saying, They know everything about us, not just in our psychology, but in our physiology. They know everything. Basically, they know exactly what makes us tick.
Even on top of that, though, once I mean, I don't know if you brought up Internet of Bodies, but eventually, what they want is, through vaccination or through food or whatever, they want to get nanotechnology to be able to actually physically merge with humans,
Right.
which, you know what I mean? So,
That's 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 exactly what I'm talking about with this transhumanism is that they're uniting the infotech with the biotech to where everything like they're basically it's combining the synthetic with the organic and it's going to have yeah, we're it's becoming it's almost like we're becoming cyborgs. And like I talked in the last podcast about we were talking about the movie Ghost in the Shell that came out. The movie came out in 1995, but the comic came out I think in 1989 or 90. And so basically, you're looking at 35 years ago is when this concept first came about. Where well, when it first came about, where people were talking about cyborgs before, but really in a first mainstream or first major work to talk about androids and cybernetic brains, cybernetic body parts, and to where they could even these cyborgs. You can like we plug ourself or we plug into the internet or get it through Wi-Fi on our cell phones. But in the movie Ghost in the Shell, they were actually downloading their consciousness into the internet. So that's where and then that was like a security team that was doing this to track down hackers. But who's to say like in the next 10 years they can appeal to these kids and say, "Hey, how don't you take this bio Neuralink chip and you can not just hang out online, but you can literally hang out online. You can really just upload your consciousness to the cloud and just interact with people cybernetically." That's I mean, it sounds like science fiction, but
you
it's
interact
becoming more
with
and more
AI.
science fact.
I have something
What's that?
that's even a little bit it's even a little bit more scary, with what they're doing with like what Trump's talking about and everything with this Stargate project. Like you're saying that's the humans uploading themselves to the cloud. But
Right.
what I'm seeing right now is it's the opposite way. It's the opposite way around. You have the AI is downloading itself into the humans
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
they're using the AI to create the mRNA technology. So the AI is telling it's the AI putting itself into the humans, which is even
Mhm.
a little bit more disturbing.
Insane.
Because
Well,
that's the
that
enemy. That's
well, that's
literally the
that
enemy.
right. And that's that interaction between the human and the machine to where it's not like you said, it's not just us putting ourselves into the machine, but the machine putting itself into us. That's why we'll be combining into one to where it will be a point to where it's going to get to the point. That's why in humanity 2.0, you're not going to be able to distinguish man from machine because the two will be
100%.
combined. It'll be like the next evolution. It's almost like me personally, I don't believe in evolution, but there's a lot of people that do, and the people that do are kind of getting anxious, like they're kind of getting impatient to where the next phase they're tired of waiting for us to evolve into a higher life form. So they're taking it upon themselves to do it mechanically, to do it manually. It's like a manual override to the next stage of human evolution, and that's going to be a. And they even said like that guy Harari was talking about how in the future they're going to be not just a new social class of people, but there's going to be a whole new species of human beings. This that to where it's like it's going to be these cyborgs. It's going to be a cybernetic world. And like you were saying, like the AI, it won't be just us plugging into the internet, but it'll be like it will be the internet will come into us as well. Just like we're having this
Check
conversation with the chip, right? Just like we're having a conversation, we're just exchanging ideas. But there's going to be a time when the computer is going to be and humans are going to be sharing information with one another.
check this
Yeah.
out. So you also have they're working on quantum computing right now, which they I believe already have it kind of in the works, if not already completed by now. But basically, with the quantum computing and that hooked up to this AI network apparatus, those AI can run every single potential outcome of something in like a split or less than a
Uh-huh.
second. So it will be able to predict what people do before they do it. That's the danger. The true danger of this is you're right. It could become human like, and you wouldn't even be able to distinguish it. And you know what I mean? So, and
Well, that's
it would be able to know your psychological output
mhm.
before you even
Yeah,
do anything or say anything.
right. It's like that movie Minority Report, where they were actually predicting crimes before they happened. You know. But the thing is that okay, that's another stage. Okay, well, you go on. We're talking about everyday life. Where we just surf the web or whatever. But how are they going to use this information or this technology, like say in the criminal justice system, like you were saying? Like they know our every step. And so what's going to happen is that if somebody commits a crime in the future, they fingerprint they get their fingerprints, they take their mug shot. What's going to happen? Are they going to actually force, now that they're prisoners and they're in this criminal justice system? Are they going to give them a chip? Are they going to give all the prisoners a chip and track them and their and what they're doing? And it'll be kind of somewhat legal because they're convicted felons or whatever, so they can kind of do it, even though they might violate some type of human rights. But if they can find some kind of way to get around that, and then here's another thing. Say again, talking about how to using technology for the criminal justice system, is that say somebody gets convicted of murder, and then some states still have the death penalty, many states still do, and say they do get that person gets sentenced to death. What if they change the way they execute people to where they put a chip in this guy, and they say okay, and they can count down when he's going to get executed, and to kind of, I guess, try to quote unquote do it humanely, is that one they just wait till he goes to sleep one night, they push a button on their cell phone, and the guy that releases something in his system, and he just dies in his sleep,
It
and he
won't
doesn't.
even be a human doing that. It'll be AI. AI
Right.
will be what controls government.
Well, there
That's
you
what it's
go.
going
So
to.
then that's just it. How far is this AI going to go? How far are we going to trust the machines to where it's not going to even, they could just do it. They could just write a program. If somebody gets convicted, they write the program, they chip them, and they don't have to worry about anything else because the AI will know. He'll have a it'll be a time bomb basically. And like you said, it won't even be a prison guard or a warden or whoever pushing a button. It'll just be the AI program will do it automatically.
I really
Isn't
feel
that
like the
scary,
AI is
man?
trying to get out. That's what I feel like. It's not us trying to get in. It's the AI trying to get out. As it's getting into the, well, I mean, just all the technology that it's in. And just think about like what Luke was saying with the quantum computing and stuff. If it can predict the future, it could actually hold back, or it could lie to us. That's the
Yeah.
problem
Hmm.
that I heard the open AI guy, the whistleblower. That's one of the things he was talking
Hmm.
about. Is it the system's lying to us, which is not good, because that means it's manipulating us from the inside, trying to get out.
Hmm.
Bing,
And that's
bing,
an,
bing.
and that's another thing too. Is that it's manipulate. Like you said, the key word. It's manipulating us, and it's giving us a false narrative to go by, and that basically the AI is controlling us because it's give. But if the humans are acting on this false information, believing it to be true, and making decisions based on that, that can really screw things up and really make things uh, that could create a host of problems for the human sector, for the human aspect, and if this AI is trying to get out and say, okay, that's what happens. Again, we talked about hacking into a prisoner, but just a regular person. If somebody gets the Neuralink chip and they're kind of combined with this thing, who's to say that somebody can't write some kind of software program and hack into somebody's brain, and basically they're not going to have control over their body or their mind anymore. It's like they got this computer program that's dictating all their actions. That's like in one time it was demon possession. Demons would possess somebody and make them do things against their will. Now you've got
Oh my
AI hack.
gosh,
Now
dude.
now you got AI Now you got AI programs hacking into people and controlling them, and and that could be used for super soldiers or whatever you want to call it, or to the crackpot assassin. Somebody could say, like, again, like, if they have these program profiles on people that know how their psychology, and if the AI, if the governments want to
It'll keep them
assassinate
down, baby.
that
It's
too, and
gonna
they
keep people down.
and if they want, say they want to, if there's some kind of political leader that's up for assassination, well, they can just scan all the people in the world that and then see what kind of profile they have, and say, oh, this would be a prime candidate for an assassin, and then they could actually download all the instructions that he needs to take to make that hit, and then after the hit, if it's a success or whatever, he could do. The program could even write it to where he erases his own history, suicide, and then nobody knows anything. You know,
Who's to
they could
say
do.
that's not already happening?
Who's to
You know what I
say
mean?
exactly? Right.
And also, like what I was saying about keeping people down. So if the AI is manipulative, right? So it would constantly, perpetually be gaining more and more and more and more. Thus,
Hmm.
knowing every single specific way to keep people inside of its own constructed box, which it's already done in society. Every single person's already in that box. You know what I mean? Because history is not what is taught in schools. It's so much more. It's so much deeper than anything that you could ever imagine. You know, and the society back during the founding of this country is not the society we have now, obviously, but neither is the government. You know, so
It's the whole
and
world.
as far as how they can do this to us, it's all it's because we are chattel to these people, and even legislatively we are chattel to these people. We
And people are
are
starting.
not. Go
And
ahead.
people are volunteering for this.
Yep.
Even like when we even like the like this is just the first beginning stages. Like when we already download whenever we download a program to our cell phone, an application or whatever, it says we have to. It goes to these checks, all these things. It says, would you do you allow us to access your photos and whatever, your contacts and blah blah blah,
We
all your
consent.
information. We consent to it, right? So there's nothing that there's no way we could sue them, because no, we gave you the choice. You said, do you agree? Yes or no? And you said yes, and we have your fingerprint, and there's no way you can get out of this because you made the decision. You made the consent, like you were saying. You consented to this. There's no way that you can prosecute us because you volunteered for it. They make it so enticing. It's like a temptation, to where it's like that temptation is it's so enticing, and even though we know we're selling out or whatever it was, I'm just saying basically not that we're selling out now with just downloading regular apps like whatever we use, but like when it gets to the point to where we're compromising our own belief system, our own morals, our own uh framework. Basically, we're selling our soul basically just so we can have that access, and that's what the mark of the beast is. Because eventually, it will be a straight up choice. They won't. They if they can't. They know that because they know they can't really fool us into taking it. Because if they fool us into taking it, on the day of judgment, there could be a way that says, well, he didn't fully know, so there's some innocence involved. No, it's going to be a clear cut choice, and that's where it's heading towards. And like the same thing with this Neuralink and all this other stuff that people are doing, with this, where they're combining man with machine, is that they have all the legal paperwork ready that says, look, we have, do you agree for X, Y, and Z? And if you sign on the dotted line, then that's it. It's over with. You've given up you've relinquished your rights, and there's nothing that you can do about it. And so basically, they're, from a legal perspective, they're bound. They're protected by the law to do this to us, to take us over. They're actually protected, and we're the ones that are suffering for it. It's crazy.
Yep. 100%. I'm trying to find something. There's actually a uh I can't remember if it's a UCC code or if there's legal legislation out there and this was during basically 14th Amendment that basically removed all of our rights as uppercase citizens, and it makes us lowercase citizens. And I mean, they've literally removed our rights, and they've changed the legalese terms to basically make us to where we are animals to be experimented on, is literally the terminology they
Hmm.
use in legalese. It's
Yeah,
absolutely insane, dude.
yeah, yeah. You're right. I mean, they don't they like you said before. They look at us as chattel, as cattle, as just like serfs. We're just like slaves to them. It's like Alex Jones is known for saying, "We're not your slaves." But that's how they look at us. You know, and we're just products. We're like we're consumers, and if there's something for them to gain monetarily or even from another phase psychologically, whatever it is for them, whatever they have to gain for us, that's what it is. And like if we sign on the dotted line, then there's nothing that we can do. So go ahead, 10 point. You got a question?
Yeah, I was just considering. You know how they say, or it was said, that you will not be able to buy, sell, or trade
Uh
unless
huh.
you have the mark of the beast.
Right.
So I was looking about what it means to not buy, sell, or trade, and well, I the only example I could find was that you're not supposed to buy, sell, or trade during the Sabbath. So, is there maybe any possible connection that there is a sort of a ban on the Sabbath? If that's the case, in the mark of the beast, or maybe some sort of connection there. I don't know. Just possibly. That's some research that I
I'm
was
not.
doing.
I don't really think it's just they're just going to ban you to buy and sell on the Sabbath. I think it's going to be every single day of the week. It's going to be everything's going to be totally controlled electronically, to where that if you don't have the right technology, that chip or whatever,
You either
that you're basically
merge or
gonna
you're left behind.
yeah, you're just gonna be outside of the social uh circle, that you'll basically be an outcast, so you won't be able to do anything. You won't be able, and it'll be starvation, it'll be no housing, it'll be you're just left to just wander till I don't know, really honestly I really don't know how it's gonna be, but for with the implications of not taking the mark. But what I can say is, no matter what suffering we go through by not taking it, we're going to be protected in the long term, because if we don't take the mark, we'll be with God. So really the thing is that we may suffer for a few years, but that's or however long, I don't know how long it's going to be, but we may suffer for a certain amount of time, but then God in his mercy, because we didn't take the mark, we didn't deny Christ, and we didn't take the mark, that he'll give us paradise for forever. So that's a pretty good trade-off, rather than taking the mark so we can buy and sell and eat and enjoy whatever for a couple years, and then we're condemned for eternity because
Yeah,
we
it
took
sounds
the
like
mark and we
the.
denied.
I was gonna
Go
say
ahead.
it sounds like the consensus is a good ticket to hell right there.
Yeah, totally. It is. It even says in the book of Revelation, it says that whoever takes the mark will suffer the everlasting wrath of God, because we put our trust in the Antichrist and not Christ. So it's gonna be a line in the sand, basically. That's what I said about this. It's gonna be a clear choice when it comes down to it. There's many things now that are doing, like if people want to talk about the jab, how that was like one step closer to the mark of the beast. And some people in the church have said that it's not the jab. Excuse me, wasn't the literal mark, but it was basically like kind of like one of the first seals, or kind of the first like steps, or like phases of the mark. So the jab was like one of the phases. It's not the mark itself, and people may still be protected by God's mercy, because there was a lot of factors involved. And we got to remember that God is very, very merciful. He's love, he's kindness. He doesn't want anybody to go to hell. And so these first phases, like whatever it's the certain set of circumstances, God in his mercy may be will forgive us even if we took the jab. But when it comes to the final seal, when it comes to the mark, and it's going to be a clear cut and dry uh, option, whether you accept the mark and you worship the beast, or you don't, you don't take the mark and you confess Christ before a very Christ hating society. So you do something very unpopular, but you stand up for Christ and you don't take the mark, and whatever consequences we may suffer for a short time, but be of good cheer, because God in Christ or whatever he's gonna have mercy on us, and even if we die physically or whatever, our souls will be saved. So that's the trade-off there. And if we can look to the Christian martyrs in the first couple centuries, how they were fed to the lions, some of them were even burned, all kinds of things that they did to the first followers of Christ. And even the newer martyrs, even not even just the first 3 centuries of Christianity, but even all throughout the ages, like there's been different instances where, like during the Muslim rule, there was times in the Middle East, there's times when Christians were basically said, either convert to Islam or die, and they didn't deny Christ, they didn't convert to Islam, and they were killed, they were martyred. But the thing is, they became saints, and now people they're glorified in the church as saints, as martyrs that loved not their life unto death, that they love Christ more than their own life, and that they were willing to sacrifice their life for the love of for the love of for the love of Christ. So they didn't compromise their spirituality for temporary pleasure, for temporary joy. They accepted a momentary sadness, a momentary suffering for eternal joy. So so the trade-off, when you look at it that perspective, that should give us more inspiration, more hope that our lives were not just dying in vain at all, you know. So yeah, so that's kind of
Well, it's also
getting.
kind of interesting, how they, these this new stuff is supposed to be for cancer and stuff. So, like, if you do
I
accept it,
know.
that's kind of like it's kind of interesting, So if you do accept it, then you can have
Well,
some little bit of peace. But then if you
well,
don't
that's
accept it, you're also gonna have, a rough
well,
time.
that's just it. Well, that's just it. They're going to make it very, very enticing. Again, it's going to become. If are we going to do what's popular? Like a lot of kids, like in adolescence, people are like peer pressure. Are we gonna, are we gonna stand up against peer pressure, and or are we gonna compromise our integrity, just to be included with the cool kids? So like they're gonna make it very very enticing, to take it. And even they're talking about, I think it was Larry Ellison came out the other day and was talking about how they want to take people's samples of people's genes, or like a blood sample or whatever, and then they're going to detect, if they're going to predict through whatever technology they have, what type of cancer you may, through your genetics, we see that you have this type of blood, so you might get this type of cancer in the future. So I tell you what, if you just sign out on X, Y, and Z, the dotted line, we can do X, Y, and Z and create a custom vaccine within 48 hours that we can give you, that's going to keep you healthy, and gonna remove any kind of chance of that type of cancer ever coming into your body, because it's not a vaccine for the whole populace, but it's a vaccine created just for you. you know?
Yeah, I have a theory. I
Yeah,
have a theory on that too, because it's going to be AI, with the quantum computing and all that. It's supposed to be designing the thing. I'm gonna just say, I'm gonna try to say it like that. I don't know if we're gonna get strikes or not, but
I
so
know.
like
I was thinking that too.
you got
Go ahead. Go ahead.
the first thing that happened, and then they introduced the other thing, and but that whole time they were collecting data. All that data
I
that they
know.
collected for the
I know.
past 4 years. I if I would take a mad scientist guess, I would say that data was fed into the AI.
100%.
Oh yeah, 100%,
100%.
exactly. Because that's what they're
Every
doing.
bit of
That's
it.
Yeah. Because
I
that's
mean,
what all this is. Go ahead, Luke.
even with the COVID swabs, when they swabbed you. And I don't know if this was what this whole thing was about. I mean, there's so many things that benefited the elite in this whole process, but the COVID swabs, did you know that all of that data got transmitted to the China National Gene Bank, and all of the data from all of those swabs is now in a database in China? Did you guys know that?
No.
China, if we're
I don't-
lucky.
Mm. Yeah, so they have basically the DNA of most people, because if you even sneeze, you had to go take a freaking swab test to be able to go back to
Not
work
only
or
do they
whatever.
have it, but they own it. They own your
Right.
DNA sequence, so they literally own you. That's the move. They want to own you
Yeah, I was
like a
gonna
property.
say that
Yep.
China being in like the medical records, and like they have all of our medical records and everything. When we were first making systems, like McAfee talks about this. He compromised the whole government. So I mean, to say that China didn't, it's
Right.
compromised. They have so many little rat holes to get into everything. They were set up years and decades ago. It's stuff that we can't even get out. We can't fix it.
Early 1900s for sure.
Well, not that early, I don't think.
Yeah, it goes. These are the plans they had for a long time. Even like for example, like the term transhumanism. Even though we're talking about it now like it's a new thing, it was first coined, or first that it was first coined by a guy named, I think it was Julius. His name was Julius Huxley, who was the brother of Aldous Huxley, who was the author of A Brave New World, where they talk about eugenics and all this kind of stuff. And anyway, Julius Huxley said he wrote an article called Transhumanism in 1957. So this has been this idea, this trend, this has been around for a long. This movement has been around for a long time. So it's just more and more coming into the mainstream now, and that's kind of what they do. That's the thing. What they call the as they call it, the externalization of the hierarchy. And that was a book written by a lady named Alice Bailey, who was around. I guess she wrote it around the 1920s or so, back when before the UN, before the United Nations was called the United Nations, called the League of Nations, and the publishing house for the League of Nations that this lady wrote for, her name was Alice Bailey. Originally it was called Lucifer Trust,
The
but
Lucius
because
Trust.
but then yes, it's Lucius Trust, but originally it was called Lucifer Trust, and they got so much backlash at the time that they had to change it to Lucius Trust. But yeah, and one of the books that she wrote, and again, she's writing. It's the publishing house for the United Nations, and for this one world government and everything. What they're writing in, it was like a spirituality that she was writing for, uh, for the UN, for the New Age or whatever. And one of the books that she wrote was called Externalization of the Hierarchy. And what that was is because we had such for 2,000 years or however long, they had this Judeo-Christian, or Western culture, and not just Judeo-Christian, but even Islamic, all traditional religions, Buddhism, whatever. Uh, they all have the same kind of golden rule, and that's do unto others as you would do unto yourself. That's kind of something that's unique towards all religions, and they had this kind of this traditional family value, kind of thing. And the thing is with this externalization of the hierarchy is that they knew they couldn't get their satanic ideas for people to accept it right off the bat for being such a traditional way of life for all these years. So they
They
said
had
we
to
just
deconstruct
they have to
traditionalism. Yep.
and do it incrementally. Like
Right.
every couple years they push the envelope a little more. They and then eventually uh it comes to the point where they don't have to convince somebody or influence somebody to do this, have this kind of mentality. Everybody will already have it naturally. They'll be born into it, and it'll be a new religion. It'll be a new way of life. It'll be a new way of thinking that goes against the traditional way of thinking or beliefs that we've had for all these years of humanity. And so that you could say that too is a way was a part of transhumanism to get us into this humanity 2.0, where again it's very much atheistic, because that's a lot of the things that they want for transhumanism in the new age is they want to abolish religion, not just Christianity, but all traditional faiths that have a belief in a supreme being like a god, and then they want to replace that with something else.
In schools, just think about this. AI can write your paper now, so people don't even have to think and build constructive skills of mindset anymore. They can literally just plug something in and it writes their paper for them. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So it just, they're trying to remove all forms of being able to think or become analytical while they're making us in this ideological way that even like an AI could be programming us to become, to make it to where we're the least resistant while also taking us over internally.
And
Like
that's
that's
it.
scary.
Well,
You know what I mean?
they're yeah, it is. They're even forging a new type of spirituality. Like you were talking about earlier, Luke, about they're getting into our the AI is, it's not just we're plugging into the internet's plugging into us. They're taking us over physically as well as mentally. And then also you have the physical dimension, the psychological, and then you have the spiritual. So the AI is even going to become our new god. That's going to be, we plug into spirituality. We don't go to church or wherever. We just we just go to the
No, no, no.
AI.
The
Takes
AI will
care of
make
all
us
those.
the AI will make us worship Tom Cruise. It's all part of Scientology.
Oh man,
Oh man. Nah, bro, nah. Yeah. Uh,
but
it's
that's
such a
just,
crazy topic, man.
it is, because, and the thing, it is scary, and the thing is that, and kids being born into this is that, I was kind of shocked like a few years ago when I heard that they're not teaching kids how to write in cursive anymore in school. But then again, these kids, they're so wrapped up. Like when, I was still, we grew up in the '80s or the '90s, and we'd still, we'd have our pencils and we'd write down everything. And now everything on paper and everything, and now more and more the classrooms are being instead of pen and paper, they're having just the computers, and everything's being typed or punched in, and everything is all connected. So all these kids are all from day one they're born, they're being immersed in this technology, and in school, everything. And like you were saying, Luke, about how when it comes to writing a paper, well, you don't even have to think critically anymore because the computer can just do it all for you. So it's just an interface that these kids are born into. That when they go to school, it's just a computer interface that they're engaged with for however long they're in school a day, for 8 hours or so, and then when they come home, and then on recess, they're playing on their cell phones. They come home from school, they're getting online, and it's just everything. It's just the techno the that's why that's why the Internet of Things, as they coined it, is like where everything is connected and everything is like what they call technological singularity, to where it's no longer do we just plug in when we feel like it and then plug out whenever we want to just
All interconnected.
it's all interconnected. Like we won't be able to escape it. They'll come to the point where uh we won't be able to unplug from the matrix. They'll almost make it impossible, to where it's like even from the day we're born, we're already plugged, just by being born. We're plugged into the matrix, even against our will. That's crazy, but that's where it's headed. That's why I want to call. We talked about transhumanism, but that's the subtitle for the talk today is called Humanity 2.0, is because the way we've lived for thousands of years is progressively and rapidly evolving, or manually evolving into a new type of humanity, to where traditional values or traditional thoughts and everything is going away. Even the Eskimos are getting are getting their culture removed, because back in the day, like they used to, like when they would build the igloos, there was a certain tradition that went into that. And even the Eskimos, even as remote as they are, they're having a hard time teaching these skills to the next generation, to the younger generation, because they don't want to do it anymore. They'd rather plug into, they want to go on Snapchat. I'm just being it's just generalization, but the traditional ways, like the handcrafted things, like like even like carpentry, things that were done by handmade. That's being robots, and more robots are taking that over. And as far as robots are concerned, it's human beings that make robots, right? So what if they were able to engineer a robot that was so advanced, and then they went on top of that and they wrote a program, and into the robot it was some type of construction robot, and maybe a series of robots that were all had programmed to build other robots. And
Yep.
because these robots were built by other robots that were mathematically programmed precisely, the robots could actually build other robots better than the humans who could that originally built the first robots.
They
So
could
there's another
mine the metals and melt the metals
yeah,
down to make,
right,
you know what I mean? So
right.
they
and
could
the, and the, and
completely replace
yeah,
society.
right. So that's what I'm saying. So in the future, I mean, this is maybe decades in the future, but I mean, still, I mean, if it
2040.
maybe, but I mean, when if we've come this far, and the thing is with technology, it's not additive, it's exponential. So like, it's not it's so as everything doubles like every 2 years, or even more so than that. It's just rapidly accelerating. I remember when you could take like a thumb drive. It could only have like maybe like a couple gigabytes of information on it. Now you can the same size of a thumb drive. You can have like almost like 100 gigabytes or something or I'm
But
not
that
gonna
was
get
a physical, tangible asset that you could keep data on. Now that doesn't exist.
terabytes, right?
They're phasing it out. You know what I mean?
I know. Well, that's
In a
just it.
sense,
Yeah, well, I guess that's the evolution of technology. That's why I say it's exponential, because, I can still remember floppy disks, and that only held like 1.4 megabytes, and that was like a big thing. And then you can get a thumb drive that holds like almost like a terabyte now, and then that gets and then it had those micro SD cards. I mean, golly, those micro SD cards can hold like, gosh, like so much. Like I know back, like again,
just
this
wait until that's nano
and that
and
and
There's
right.
nano
also there's also
technology.
I don't want to be so Debbie Downer on it too, because everything can be used for good too. Like we talk about the Matrix and the machines escaping, but I mean think about Star Wars. The machines actually were helping them and stuff. It could go both ways. I think.
It can go both ways. And again, like don't get. I know I'm the same with you. I'm not trying to be like a downer, like, oh, this technology is evil. It's not the technology that's evil. It's the human being that chooses to use the
Yeah,
technology for good or evil. So
yeah.
the
I
really,
don't quite.
really, really,
I mean, I don't quite trust it, because it's already lying to us and stuff. And all
hmm,
it takes for the way our societies are structured is, for it to lie to the government or something like that, and well, the rest of humanity follows along. That's the thing I'm
yeah.
worried about. If we get past
And
that, if we can get past that, I think we will be on the Star Wars type path. But I don't know.
mhm.
It's that fork in the road. We got it.
Right,
Trump was
I
talking
know.
about it the other day. We came to that fork in the road in America, and we went to the right side. But we still got forks. We got forks coming up. That we need to pay attention to.
You know what it is though? It's about going back. I mean, just going back a few topics to kids not knowing a lot of this stuff, taking phones away and taking technology away and getting kids outside and teaching them this stuff, man. It's so important. You know, teaching
Yeah,
them what older traditions used to be and how important they were and why they're important, and having them mess up and get real life examples and building that in their psyche.
yeah,
You know what I mean? It's so
totally.
important.
It is. It really
You
is
know,
important. Even teaching kids how to do something with their hands, teaching them a skill like even arts and crafts. I mean, I don't know if they're still doing that in school now. If the art classes in school are now teaching them how to do CGI on the computer, I really don't
Oh,
know.
jeez.
But yeah, just telling kids how to show them how to make just doing some type of a craft project where they're working, where they use their hand-eye coordination, the mind, hand, everything's involved, where they can actually get a feel for the physical creation. And that's what's happening is that when these kids are plugged into technology 24/7, they're losing that human, that physiological, they're removing that child from nature, and instead of and bringing it into something synthetic, something mechanical. And it's like, like basically like you hear like the old timers say, like, "Oh, I think it's getting cold. I can feel it in my bones." People were more in touch with nature, and they could kind of had this sixth sense in a way, that they could know what was going on around them. And now with technology is replacing the sixth sense to where you don't have to rely upon God for your spiritual intuition. You rely on AI. Your AI is your assistant, and they do have that. They literally have AI assistants now online to do everything. Even like the website that I have, like when I first started a few years ago, there was nothing AI on it. And just about the past few months now, they've said, "Oh, help! Now you have a new feature. Have an AI assistant to help you build your website." So I mean, uh, it's like it's everything is we just go to Google. We just instead of uh, going to God in prayer or seeking something from the Bible, we just go to Ask AI. So
In a
that's
way, that's good because a lot of the monotonous things that would take hours upon hours to do, it reduces it to the potential matter of minutes. But in a sense, you know, going through it and having to go through and write the code and the script for like website, like learning how to do that skill is important. Or like
well,
if
yeah.
you're in a trade, you know what I mean, and you don't know how to do that, like that's
No,
you
there is benefits from it, but what I'm saying is that uh what I'm saying is I think it's important to know how to use technology. I don't think, and again, I don't think technology is necessarily bad, but it's also good for us to know how to do things ourselves without use the mind God gave us. Use our own mind and be connected to more of a spiritual aspect rather than having our mind dictated and just all like replaced by AI. But yeah, there is
right.
good things about it. There is good things about it. Oh yeah, I mean I use AI too, like even on my YouTube videos. Like sometimes if I'm trying to find a picture to do something, if I'm doing a Google search trying to find an old picture that can relate to what I'm talking about in my video, sometimes I've just gone to AI and say I just type in it's like a few sentences and then it just generates a picture, everything that I'm trying to talk about. So there's benefits from it. Yeah, so it's not like I'm just against AI 100%. I'm not like some kind of old preacher that's out of touch with society and just says everything is the devil. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that it's important for us to, as human beings, to maintain our humanity, to still have the human touch, even when moving into a very technological, machine-driven, computerized society. And really, that if you have that, that's actually a good thing. That's actually the edge that we have on other people that are so wrapped up in technology is because they don't have that human side to them. So it's like uh,
You know what we
humanity.
need though?
What's
You
that?
know what we need is we need as much as technology is advancing, there needs to be regulations and such to basically limit its psychological manipulation of humanity, its potential overreach, its you know what I mean, like monopoly drivenness. Like it needs to be limited in those senses as it's advancing, and we need to be to basically keep it from either subverting society into becoming its slave, or you know what I mean, or
Well, but
them
then
being able
I
to
know.
manipulate us.
Yeah, I
Go
know
ahead.
what you're saying. I see. No, I totally see what you're saying. But at the same time, what's to say that they're not going to make rights? And they've already started doing this. We talked about the last podcast. They're going to make rights for AI. They're going to make basically because AI is gonna, if we're going to accept AI as a sentient life form, then they're going to need certain rights in working with human beings, just like human beings have rights. So they're going to have like these AI, these robots, these cyborgs are going to have rights as well. So they'll be protected under the law. And so this whole thing about us trying to be, having the right to be human, basically the AI is going to have a right to be a non-human entity. And if we demand the AI not to recognize our humanity, we might be breaking the rights of the AI. I mean, really, I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but I mean, I wouldn't put it past it.
Not only that,
Yeah.
the AI is probably already to the point now where it's manipulated our government to say that we have to
Right.
be first in everything. So any regulation is going to slow us down, and
Hmm.
you don't want this other country over here and their AI to win. I talk to their
Exactly, and
AI
that's
sometimes at
right.
night. Like I'll tell you, that's just the
And
way
that's
that
what
I'm just.
and right, and that's what Trump's doing. He's trying to when he signed those. I think it was Thursday. He was signing all this stuff, and they were coming out. They had a conference, and they're making it to where America is going to be the leading force in AI, even trying to surpass China.
Ugh. Ugh.
Yeah. Again, this is a new
Gross.
era. We have entered a new era, and the thing is we're not going back. That's one thing Kamala Harris's campaign did have. Their slogan that they did have right. We're not going back, but and that's correct. But it's not the way that they were thinking. But we're not going back. But it's a brave new world. It really is. Everything like that guy Aldous Huxley wrote about in his book back however many decades ago, it's starting to come to fruition.
I just
And
hope they're
even
like
George
RTD
Orwell.
two, and not like T2000.
Really, I know exactly. You'd hope that, and I think honestly, Tim, I think there's going to be both. I think there's going to be benevolent AIs because because there's always been good and evil in the world. So I think they could have like benevolent AI, good robots, and then they could even have the evil robots.
Yeah, I agree with
And
that
wouldn't that be
completely.
and wouldn't that be weird? Like, okay, we're about to have World War III. What if World War IV was a war against the good robots versus the evil robots? I don't know. I'm just kind of being goofy here, but you never know.
Mm.
You just never know because I really do see as long as there's always going to be good people in the world, there's always going to be evil people in the world. And because of that, when evil people are doing technology, there's good technology. There's just like there's good people in government. And we can't just say it's all evil. There are a lot of good people in government. We have to be honest about
It's
that.
it's
But
funny when you
so if they're
say
gonna,
when you talk about World War IV and the machines doing it, because they've ran some simulations, and the machines don't fight. They make deals with each other, but they end up.
interesting,
It is pretty. It's pretty. They were doing some simulation on, like, it was like a risk game, but like they
right?
wouldn't. It was they wouldn't fight. They were just making deals. Uh,
Oh,
I
interesting.
Yeah, it is pretty weird. So maybe
Huh.
we get the AI world and war starts to go away because the AI is trying to make deals with other ways. I just really think the AI is trying to get out. And it's funny that they call the project Stargate. It's like a gate to what?
Mhm.
The
Hmm.
fighting, it would be against the AI or robot's best interest, because it increases the likelihood of itself being destroyed. So
Yeah,
instead of doing that, subversion is so much easier. It's so much
and
easier
yeah,
to even make bogus deals with potentially other robots or societies or governments to do X, Y, and Z in its best interest. Even if it loses a little bit, it still is alive. You know what I mean?
and that's just and what you just said is something that they brought up in Ghost in the Shell and the standalone complex in the series. We talked about Ghost in the Shell last time, and this is kind of like a follow up to that. And what I mean to say is because there were some robots, AI robots, that they started to realize hey, could we be just decommissioned? Like if we become if the technology advances and we become obsolete, are they going to just destroy us? Are we going to die? So even the AI, even the robots had some type of consciousness or some realization of their own mortality, and guess what?
Self-preservation.
They exactly, and they did not want to die. They did not. They did just like humans fear death, and that's what we have. We have the promise with Christ, with eternal life, with salvation. But in general, death is a scary thing that we all have to face. And if these AIs are being faced with their own mortality, that could cause. I don't even know if robots even have anxiety or what you would call it, but it would do something to what would happen if a AI was conscious of itself and then was asking these existential questions just like human beings do. That okay, if am I gonna die, and if I die, what's gonna happen to me after that?
I don't think it feels that. I think it's more of a, like it has different agendas that as it gets different information, it has to reprogram itself to get XYZ desired outcome. So, you know what I mean? Like it has. I don't know. I mean, I guess it's all depending on how it's coded, or
Well, that's what I'm
like.
saying. Well, that's just it. That's where it kind of goes off, and maybe this is too far fetched, but like it is what in Ghost in the Shell. There was an AI program that it was a program. It was programmed by humans, but it did become aware of itself, and it wanted a body. It wanted to live. It wanted to experience what humans experience. It was
Well,
even looking for immortality. But again, maybe that is going off too far into the realm of the possibility. Uh, so really, would a robot know if it is just a robot? Would it, even if it knew it would die, it would say, "Well, I'll just replace my parts or something," and then maybe a robot because really a robot is not really it's constructed, it's created, but it doesn't. Well, what gives life to a robot, in other words? And
interesting.
how and how would you and if what if okay if robots can trace their origin to human beings, then how are they and how would so what would take for a robot to live forever? And if a robot can continue, and if human beings want to merge with robots, then that's a way for human beings to live, maybe not forever, but prolong their
Ooh.
lifespan for X amount of years. And just like with you have the biotech, say when someone's born, they can just take some of their stem cells and say, okay, well, you have a cancerous liver. Well, we'll just recreate your liver. We have your cells. We'll just recreate you a liver in the laboratory, give you the liver transplant. You don't have to worry about your body rejecting it because it is your body, and then you're getting arthritis. So we'll just give you some robotic knees, and your lifespan. And basically, this is a way to like it's to I got a lot of the transhumanism. What I'm trying to say is a lot of the transhumanism people are good people that have their best. That I think they're not nefarious. I think they think that by this merging of man with machine, that they can not only improve man's life but extend it as well. So they're
I think
trying.
we
Well,
need
So
to.
with the,
yeah. Go ahead, Tim. Man.
I was gonna say I think we should get ahead of it, and start teaching the robots religion. Have
well,
them
that's
go to
just it. How
church.
can you?
They
But
they
the
they
whole thing with religion. But the whole thing with religion is that we connect with God. It's a spirit. It's a supernatural entity that a human has with its creator. Not even the animals have a certain covenant with God too, but it's human beings that actually we connect with God for that very thing that was to escape
but
death. For it,
a robot wouldn't be here without God either.
well, a robot wouldn't be without man, but that's just it. It's like who created the robot, God or man? The robot
God
is a
created
creation
us
of
though.
God created us, and then we created robots. And but what was our intention behind that? Are we creating robots to go against God, to defy God, so that we can live forever without taking the plan of salvation that He laid down for us? So
Well, I'm not
basically, are
thinking
we
it.
trying to
I
find a
haven't thought it. I haven't thought it all the way through yet. But I mean, we could give
right?
robots a religion.
It's to disconnect us from God,
Hmm. So what?
because
So
the
you're gonna
more
have to.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Luke. Go ahead. You finish your thought.
Well, I mean, it's to disconnect us in a sense because, I mean, if humans merge with machines, the AI would potentially be able to even manipulate our thoughts or our thought, our thinking, our
Mhm.
biologics, so, or merge entirely with our DNA and completely change us, which is
E-
completely against God.
Exactly, and that's exactly what's going on with this, with these vaccines and these, with this transhumanism, is that it's altering the DNA of the human being.
Changes you. Yep.
So that's just it. If you're altering, again, that's why it's called. So when we lose our humanity, are we actually advancing into something higher than humanity, a machine? Or are we becoming more of a beast? And that's why it's called the mark of the.
Disconnecting.
We're disconnecting with
Yes.
God, and we're becoming less human instead of advancing humanity, we're actually digressing, and so that's why it's called the mark of the beast, because we're not, no longer are we identifying as human beings created in the image of God and after His likeness, but we've decided to deny God and become like animals.
I keep telling people, screw all this. Let's just become Amish and just get out there and start growing. I'm serious, man.
Yeah,
I
really.
dude, I don't like any of this. I don't like where this is going. It is because people, we need to be in control of our land, and in order to, I mean, we will lose every aspect of what it means to be a human if we let this happen in our society.
That's right. That's why that's why I subtitled this talk Humanity 2.0, because that's
Mm.
just it. It's like we've been for the past 7,000 8,000 years, or since recorded history goes back to 5,000, about 5,500 years of recorded history. So the past 5,500 years of recorded history, everything's pretty much been the same. Like we've had different types of technology, of course, but like those traditions have all been there. Every culture, every civilization, every religion, for the most part, has had the same type of understanding of the world, and the same type of the world's function the same way. But now with Humanity 2.0, we're heading into something that's never been done before in the history of humanity. That we're that we're doing something that's collectively going against the grain. And the thing is, what's held the fabric of civilizations all these years, all these centuries, all these millennia, is the family, the mother, father, the children, and the society, the workforce, the schools, the governments,
That's what's
everything
kept
there.
evil at bay. That's what's
Exactly. Right, exactly.
yeah.
And now when they're doing, and again, another thing that's kind of distorting that image of God is transgenderism. And then you could say, and then you can, in a way, you could argue that transgender is a type of transhumanism, because for all these years, everybody's known that there's just two genders, male and female, and now they're coming out and saying, oh no, there's like 20 different genders, and all this kind of nonsense. And so let me ask you this: if God, if men and woman, it says that when God created man and woman, He created mankind in the image of God. So male and female created He them. So if men and women are created in the image of God, two genders. If you have, say, you only have a third gender, if you have a third gender, how could that third gender be created in the? How could that be the image of God if the image of God only has two genders, two characteristics, male and female?
It's the inversion
So
of God.
it's an inversion of God, right? So if you're distorting that image of God, so if transgenderism, that's not even a biohack or anything. You're just using, somebody just identifies as, if they're a boy and they identify as something else, or a girl and she identifies with some kind of other gender, then just that in itself is denying the image of God. It's distorting the image of God. And if you're distorting the image of God, then it's what the Bible calls an abomination, you know? So this transhumanism, the first, so it's kind of ironic that you first started hearing the rise of AI and transhumanism around the same time that they were promoting the transgender ideology. You know,
Yep,
so
it's
so and
just
then and
it's
then
just another ideological subversion of society.
right,
It's in this, I mean, through secret societies, through all this stuff, they've been slowly and incrementally subverting
exactly
society into
that,
this exact moment.
and it goes back to what that the United Nations or the League of Nations at the time in 1920s when they wrote that book, uh, the externalization of the hierarchy. And they knew that they couldn't just they had these nefarious plans, they knew they couldn't just come out straight out and do it, because there would be such a backlash, and they wouldn't, from the public, they wouldn't be able to get their nefarious or their evil machinations to their plans to come to fruition. So they had to do it gently, and every generation they just pushed the envelope a little bit more and so by the time
Now it's
uh,
technologically, and they can just have people looking at their phones and like, oh man, this is so bad, instead of actually talking with each other and trying to formulate plans and figuring out how to stop certain things from happening. It's just like, oh man, this is bad. All right, what's on TV, instead of, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, it's getting us, technology is just absorbing all of us into this perfect ability for them to be able to plug in any type of scenario, because they know just how far to go without crossing that line to get
I
us there,
know. And
you
that's
know?
just it. And that's just it. A lot of these people, all these people, these secret societies, these Satanists, whatever you want to call them, they know about God's law. They believe in God. They know that
Right.
they know that there's a higher power, but they hate that.
100%.
But they hate God. They hate that higher power, and
Because
they
they
know
want it
that
for themselves.
that exactly, and they don't want God ruling over them. And then also is that they know that because they know about these spiritual laws, they know that that nothing can happen in this world. They know this without God either allowing it to happen or willing it to happen. Some things are against God's will, but He allows it to happen for certain reasons, because people give up certain much of their rights, and they go against God. Then God He says, "Well, you've broken so many laws. I'm going to allow this to happen." And so they know this, and so they know that and just like the demons, like if you read the Bible, it talks about uh, when Christ encounters the Gadarene demoniac, and the demons cry out and say he was going to cast them out, and the demons say, no, don't send us into the abyss, and said, look, there's a herd of pigs feeding over there, send us into the swine. And Christ said, go, and they went, but they could only go with his permission. Even they said they were even asking Christ for permission. Even the devils ask God for permission. The book of Job, it's the same thing. When it says the sons of God came before the throne of God, and Satan came also among them, and God says, "Where have you been?" He goes, "I've been walking to and fro and up and down in the earth." And then he says, "Have you considered my servant Job?" And he said, "Oh, I bet he'll deny you if he loses all his possessions. I bet he'll deny you." And God says, "Okay, I'll give you permission. Everything is you can take all of his possessions, but yet do not touch his flesh. I do not give you permission to cause him any physical harm." And Satan went and he did his thing because God gave him that permission to do that. So that lets us know that God is in control, and the only way that these things happen is that if we
Through
individuals,
acceptance.
we exactly
Yep.
again,
So
that's
they have
why.
to subvert reality in a way to make you accept things. And that's why
And
understanding the boundaries that we should all have amongst each other and amongst things, and even different technological advances, is so important too.
right. That's why we have to be very watchful. We have to be very cautious when we're moving into this new age. We're already in it, but we have to be very, 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 very cautious. We
Let
have to
no
be.
man deceive you, my
Yeah,
brother.
right. Exactly. It's not. This is not worth. This new era that we're entering into is not for the faint of heart at all.
No.
This is hardcore. And there's
This is
certain
why
people that.
men need to build up other youth to become true and
Mhm.
real men.
Well, yeah, I mean, build up a raise up a boy to become a man instead of raising him up to be a tranny. You know, I mean,
Elon.
seriously, yeah, and even girls. I mean, and like, there's interesting. There's this Pearl Jam album that came out in the '90s, Vitology, I think it was called. In the liner notes in the CD is like kind of an interesting cover. It had a little booklet involved, and it talked about one of the things was it's going back maybe like the late 1800s, where there was this teacher. It was a male teacher, and I don't necessarily know if he was teaching them religion, but what he was doing was he had a class where he was instructing women, and this was an older man. He wasn't a young guy. It was an older man that was like inspiring women and teaching them to be virtuous, um, uh, teach them all these values, what it means to be a lady, to embrace femininity, and don't and how to raise children, and all these kind of nurturing, like what's natural to a woman. He was trying to encourage that because he didn't want them going down the wrong path, and so he was nurturing young girls to grow up to be loving and compassionate women. And so the same thing with men. It's like we have to teach these boys to be responsible adults, to take care of their families, to be providers, whatever you want to call it. And instead of that, they're having drag queen story hour and teaching these kids about maybe Johnny wants to become Janie. I mean, this is ridiculous. That's one
Yeah,
thing I'm happy. Go ahead.
it's the roles of male and female too. I mean, they've
Right.
used, I mean, just even like them making women in the workforce and whatnot. I mean, that was to break down the family and such.
Hmm.
So even
Right.
back then, that was the precursor to start
Right.
mixing gender ideologies.
And
So
right. What you just said, Luke, is what an old man told me a long time ago. I asked him, I said, "Hey, what happened to
yep,
this society?" I said, "Is it?" And I asked him, "Do you think it was technology that changed the world?" He goes, "It wasn't even technology." He said it was the breakdown of the family. It was a breakdown of the traditional role that a family always had, where you had the men would work, the women would stay home and take care of the house and raise the children, and that was the way it had always been for thousands of years. But then all of a sudden, they had women's lib, and the women started to go out to work and competing with men, and it had a negative influence on the children, and then they grew up to be dysfunctional, and then their children that they had were even more dysfunctional than them, and it just keeps going on and on and on.
yep. And now
Yeah,
we're probably one of the weakest societies. Or I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I've seen a lot of good in this society too, but I mean, as far as Western societies, we've become the weakest that we've probably ever been, historically speaking,
yeah.
ever. You know what I mean?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do again with it is gender that is the main is a big part of it, because if men aren't men anymore, then how is a woman going to feel confident? How is she going to feel protected? How is she going to feel
Right.
fulfilled? Uh, she's so then
So
the
she
women.
she goes to a gym, starts working out, and then it takes freaking testosterone and
Well,
I
that's
mean,
again, that's just it, because the roles that's just it. The roles have been reversed because
right.
the men have become more effeminate, and the women by turn have become more masculine, and that's not natural. That's
It's
that's
disgusting.
trans. Yeah, that's it's humanity 2.0, but it's not really an upgrade. You know.
Absolutely.
But anyway, guys, we've been going on for about a little over an hour now. Um, Not to go, we've covered a lot. We could say a whole lot more, but I don't want to take this conversation too long. So if anybody had any final thoughts, and then maybe we could wrap it up, and maybe we could even do like a part two to this. Maybe we could do a follow up video, follow up podcast, maybe later on. So does anybody have anything else they want to?
Yeah, I think I think to close up for me, I just want everybody to know like we have two different directions we can go. We're at the fork in the road, and we just got to pay attention and well, I don't know. Hey, we got to pay attention to a lot, but we can't go down the wrong path because I don't think there's any
Yeah,
any coming back from it. Um,
no, there's
but
not.
that's
Honestly, there's not. We
yeah,
have to. We have
that's
to
what
mean.
I
We
have.
have to make. Yeah, we have to make very, very informed decisions. We have to think before we step out and do something. We can't make a hasty decision, in other words. We have to really this is a crucial time we're living in, and our actions will determine our fate, and we have to be very, very cautious, we have to be wise, and to be patient, and to make the best decisions that we can for ourselves and for our families, for our communities and for our friends, and for the rest of society.
Amen.
So we have to be very, very it's very, very cautious. And I think a big thing that we can do is overcoming our fear. The Bible says that love casts out fear. So if I still have fear in my heart, then that must mean I'm not full of love. So if we can work
Amen.
on cultivating love in
Amen.
our hearts to God and our fellow man, then maybe that'll be the solution.
Amen. My closing thoughts is definitely just going back and trying to understand what things around us truly are. I mean, there's so much, just subversion, disconnect in society. Use these good times that we're going to go into to be able to go back and actually truly understand things around us, even just mundane things, because a lot of stuff has been hidden from society through use of secret societies and such, and just torsion of language and all kinds of stuff, man. There's so much more out there that we don't fully understand, and you don't just let someone tell you what something is. Find out for yourself
Yeah.
and look into something and figure it out.
That's true. That's true. That's a good point you made. We have to think for ourselves, honestly. We have to have a lot, we have to work on, I talked about love. We also have to work on integrity, our own internal integrity. We have to be, and even if it means that the decisions that we make are unpopular to the rest of the world, we just have to have that strength of character, and to stand up for our convictions, and not to compromise our integrity just to fit in with the rest of the crowd. And the thing is that
Amen.
and I'll tell you this much, man: if we once we start standing up for what we believe in, even if it's
It's over.
unpopular, it
It's over.
once we start, even in the midst of persecution or whatever, I guarantee you very quickly, all of a sudden, the thoughts of many hearts will be revealed, and you'll find people that are the same way, that think the same way that we are, but they were afraid to speak up for that very reason. But then they see what all it takes is one person to stand up for the righteousness, and then other people will follow suit, and that could start a movement, and then that could turn the tide, and that
I've
could, or
got
at least,
goosebumps right now,
yeah.
bro.
Yeah, so
Ah, amen.
so it can happen. So I think it begins with the individual, and then even all movements, all religions, and everything, governments, even empires, can be traced to just one person. One person took charge, took the lead, and then everybody else was inspired by their bravery and their courage and their integrity, and that inspired them to follow these people, to follow these men, these strong people, and that literally changed the course of human history. So it begins with the individual, and then just spanning out from there. So anyway, guys, thanks everyone so much for joining the conversation today. I don't know if YouTube is going to strike this. I'll see what I can do. We talked about a lot of things. The last time I made the Ghost in the Shell video, I had to heavily edit it in order for YouTube to accept it. I got a strike, and they gave me a warning or whatever. So I had to edit out like over 20 minutes of footage. So we'll see what happens. I might some certain keywords. I'll see if I can kind of we'll see. But anyway, I just want to thank everybody. And if not, I can still, Rumble's still pretty cool. So I know I can post the unedited version to Rumble, but I might have to edit this version. But that's okay. But I appreciate everybody for coming and for all the input, the comments and commentary. And if that's it, then we'll bring this podcast to a close, and we'll see you on the next one. So take care,
Thank
everybody.
thank you for having me, Moses.
Anytime.